my sister from another mister across the pond.
Hey, you. I've missed you.
I've missed you too. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. You all right?
Yeah, I know sometimes we'll have days where we like chat every day almost throughout the entire day.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we'll have days where like we don't hear from each other for days. So this has been one of those weeks where we didn't chat quite as much. So it's nice to see you and talk to you.
It's nice to see you. Well, it's Mother's Day, so you're busy today.
Yes, it is Mother's Day. We did a Mother's Day breakfast. I woke up early and cooked for my mom and we did presents then, and then we'll do dinner. We went out to dinner yesterday to try to beat the lines because places get
Beat the
so
crowd,
busy.
yeah.
So today's just kind of home hanging out with the boys, getting my desk and my office ready for tomorrow.
Ooh,
So
big
yeah,
birthday.
I know. I'm so excited. You've been with me through the whole run, the whole like last job ending, looking for a new job. So I appreciate all of your crossed fingers and positive thoughts.
I'm just really pleased for you.
Yeah,
Nice new
thank
start.
you.
Exciting times.
Yeah. Oh, I did finally get my mind wrapped around some German for Eileen. Was it Eileen?
It was Beth. It was
Beth.
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 Yes.
Okay, so I remembered. I thought, shoot, I didn't do that at the end of the episode. And I'm ready to say something to Beth.
I thought the same when I was editing
yeah.
it. We didn't circle back.
Ja, so tut mir leid, Beth, dass ich habe vergessen, das etwas zu dich sagen. Ich bin ein bisschen nervös, weil ich glaube, dass mein Deutsch ist nicht so gut, aber vielen Dank für uns zu schreiben und dass du unsere Podcast gefallen. Das macht mir so glücklich und das so vielen Dank für das. Bitte schreiben uns, wann du willst. Das macht uns ganz glücklich und ich hoffe, dass du ein schönes Tag und ein schönes Woche. Viel Glück, vielen Dank.
Check
So
that
hopefully that was
out.
okay. Wasn't so nervous this time. So
Gesundheit.
yeah.
Und ich möchte gerne 2 Bier, bitte.
2 Würstchen, ein Brötchen.
Yeah, too right.
But that's what I wanted to say last time. I just couldn't quite get it out. So
Better late than never.
hopefully that's sufficient.
Sounded great to me. Mm-hmm. Okay,
So we have a beautiful episode and a difficult episode to talk about, don't we?
We do. So let's just, I'll be honest, this one was really tough for me. And full disclosure, I said on social media on one of our platforms, I can't remember which, someone asked me if I'd seen it yet or something. And after I'd watched it, I commented and I was like, yeah, it was great. I loved it. And I can't wait to watch it again. And that was not true because it really took it out of me emotionally. And without going into too much detail, this was really personal for me. And I have basically been in Vic's shoes with somebody whom I love dearly multiple times. Touch wood, thank goodness they're fine. And I actually checked in with them yesterday and they're doing great and they're very happy. And so it's all good. However, what it did highlight to me is that I just buried a bunch of stuff that I thought I was fine with, and I'm clearly not fine with it. So this is why stuff like this is so important. It's so important that we're made aware of these things, and that life's not all sunshine and roses, and these things happen, and they happen to all of us, not just on TV. And it's pretty crappy. And I just realized after I'd put that message and said, yeah, it was great and I loved it, that I was being dishonest. And I was doing myself a disservice, and I feel like I was doing everyone else a disservice after I posted that comment saying that I was fine and it was great and I loved it, when I'm not, and I didn't. Because all I was doing was taking away agency from someone else, or like closing off a door to someone else who might also have similar feelings to me. And if I had been open and honest, then that might have made it easier for somebody else to be open and honest.
To share, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So in the spirit of being open and honest and communicating and not doing what Beckett has done
Yeah.
in the episode and what Maya did before him, just burying stuff down, closing it off, saying everything's fine and not talking about it. I would just say that I found it really bloody hard. And I'm probably going to find it really bloody hard to talk about.
Yeah.
But talk about it we will, because it's real life.
Yeah.
You know, this particular scenario, obviously, with these particular individuals, clearly is not. I'm aware enough, self-aware enough to know that. But it was incredibly close to home for me that somebody suffered a massive trauma, became an alcoholic, and then, thank God, he didn't make an attempt on his life.
Yeah.
But had every intention to make an attempt on his life.
Yeah.
And it was down to Vic to go in there and make sure that didn't happen. And the toll that takes on a human being is not great. So yeah. But I'm glad that I'm doing this with you. Let me just say that, because you make me feel very safe. And when I told you yesterday that I was struggling, you straight away said, "What can I do?"
Yep.
So thank you.
Yep.
And this is what you can do. So again, thank you.
Yeah.
For being the person that's here to do this with me. So thank you.
Of course. And, it would be very easy to, just say it was a great scene and skip over it. But I think it's important we don't shy away from it. It affects so many people, along my mental health journey. I've had times where I thought, I never to hurt myself, but thoughts that, maybe the world would be better without me. Maybe, just being transparent, maybe, it'd be nice to just go to sleep and not wake up,
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
never thoughts to hurt myself, but thoughts that it would just, I used to say, God, just bring me home kind of thoughts.
Yeah.
And, that's just very real that sometimes life gets hard. And I appreciated the route that they took. I appreciated that they didn't just have him make an attempt or actually go through with it, but that we saw the rawness of it. I thought that Barrett Doss and Josh Randall did a beautiful job. The writing was beautiful.
Did they ever?
And but to say that it wasn't triggering would be a lie. Extremely triggering. Like you said, even for people on your end who were the ones being there for someone, extremely triggering. And I just want to put in another plug about the resources that we have. We have 988 in America. I know you said you have I think it's called the Samaritan in the UK.
It is called the Samaritans. Yeah.
Yep. Google those numbers if you need them. Talk to someone like Melissa and I talk to each other. Sometimes just knowing that somebody's listening is enough. But at the end of the day, you matter, and the world would not be better without you. You need to be here. And I'm glad that, like Melissa said, we've created this safe place to talk about these things. And I'm glad that God brought us together to have each other, because I've had mental health issues where you've been there for me on the other end, right? And
I always will be.
Yeah. And so if you need somebody to talk to, those numbers are there. People, the Fire Nerds group, the DMs are open on there as well. I do want to say on Station 19 Fire Nerds on Instagram, Alex posted crisis hotline numbers, I believe, for 30 different countries. So if you need to look at that as well, there are resources there. Yeah, but don't think that we would be better off without you, because it's not true. We all need you. There's only one you in the world, and you're needed. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we,
Too right.
We got more into it. So, but I'm glad that you seem to be doing okay, Melissa. I've been thinking about you a lot, sending you positive prayers and thoughts, because I could tell it was difficult for you, and I was a little bit nervous doing this recording. Because I didn't want it to be hard for you, but you're being very brave, and I'm glad that you're here. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it. And if it's okay with you, just because it is rough,
Yeah.
can we start with Beckett and Vic
Mm-hmm.
and then close with my favorite fake person?
Yeah, no, I think it would be good to just, I don't want to say get it over
Kill.
with, but kind of just talk about it and then move on and have, not linger on it too much, right?
A palate cleanser, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so 617. All these things that I've done. Class track by the Killers. Just saying. Air date for this one was the 11th of the 5th, 2023, unless you're on the other side of the pond and you do it the wrong way round. And then it was May 11th, 2023.
5/11. Yep.
So this one was co-written by Stacey Okinola. We spoke about her credits when we reviewed 609 Come As You Are. She likes the Weed Mums, as you call them.
Yeah.
Peggy and Dana. She's done a couple of episodes where the Weed Mums are either in or mentioned, so we shouldn't be surprised that the Weed Mums pop up. And her co-writer was Leah Gonzalez, and I embarrassed myself enough saying her name about 58 times and quoting lines that she's written in our inaugural podcast.
Yes.
So I shall say no more than that, just Leah Gonzalez. The director for this one is Yangzun Braun. I looked her up because I didn't recognize her name. Turns out she is Swiss.
Oh.
And this is only her second ever Station 19 episode, but her first credit was 310, which was another massive episode because it was the episode following Rigo's death, where Maya brought Diane in.
Yeah.
And Diane basically went around the station talking to everybody.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It was an excellent, excellent one. And, we hear about Ben's being pulled over for driving whilst black, and Travis going to the rescue in drag. He's going through all this stuff with Emmett. And then, of course, we hear Maya's now really quite famous speech about...
Think about dying, yeah.
Yeah, dream about dying, yeah. So she's obviously at home with difficult material, and she did an absolutely cracking turn the first time round, and she hasn't disappointed in this episode. So Yangzun Braun, someone to look out for. So I guess there's no putting it off. Block 1, Beckett and Vic. So if we start in the beanery where it all kicked off, so Theo tells Vic that Beckett's called in sick, and she has flashbacks to his actions in the prior episode and has a think that perhaps he's going to do something silly. She asks Theo if he thinks Beckett's okay, and he says, well, I don't know, I didn't ask any follow-ups, which is typical of Theo at this point in his life. So she pretends that she has to go see Diane for something, skips out and goes to Beckett's place, where she finds him getting his affairs in order, and sort of bluffs to him that she's there on official business, just checking in, doing peer reviews. And he tries to get rid of her, but she is not leaving. He gets pretty angry with her pretty quick for sort of interfering, because she's getting into all his things, and she starts digging out stuff from his past, which it would appear that he would rather forget. So she's pulling out bowling trophies. She puts on a record that it turns out was the only thing that he got in the divorce. But yeah, he definitely doesn't want reminding of his past, which I guess if you are looking to not have a future, I guess you don't want to be reminded of the things that might be keeping you here, maybe.
Right.
And in the end, he just says, look, ask me what you came here to ask me. And so she does. She manages to get the words out and says, did you skip shift because you're thinking of killing yourself? Then she has to admit that there's no peer review, that she just made it up because she was worried about him. And she comes across a basketball whilst going through his things. And they agree on a modified game of horse. So if he wins, she has to leave. And she agrees, but only if every time she scores, he has to answer a question.
Yep.
And I think this is a great call by her, actually, because there's something about movement, I think. And I don't know whether it's the endorphins, whether it's just that you have to concentrate on something else. I don't know if it's the transfer of energy. I don't know what it is. But yesterday, the only thing that could get me out of my funk was I went in my kitchen and I put on some music that was probably obnoxiously loud for where I live.
Yeah.
and I can't call it dancing. I mean, the way that I move my body when there's music on should never be called dancing. That's this definitely doesn't meet the dictionary definition. But I was just bouncing around my kitchen, yelling out the lyrics, and there's just something about getting out of your head and getting into your body, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, it's different for everybody, right? But I loved that. I loved that from Vic. I thought that was a great call. And it seems to work. He opens up, he's talking, he's smiling and laughing. It seems to have done a job, I think. Vic ends up losing the game and he tries to throw her out, but she ends up pulling out of him a story about the worst day of his life by sharing hers first. And it breaks him down. And he screams at her initially for destroying his plan, and he was feeling relief, and she's come in and smashed all that to pieces. But then he really breaks down and he ends up sobbing against his truck. And then the next we see of him, it's dark, so she's clearly spent the whole day there with him.
The whole day, yeah.
They're standing on you call it the sidewalk, right?
Yep.
So standing on the curb on the sidewalk, he's got a bag packed and they're waiting for his union rep because he's agreed to go finish the program. And he says that his rep will be there soon so Vic can leave. But she can't.
Nope, she's not having it.
Nope. And she gives him a huge hug, but he can't hug her back because he's given her all that he has to give. And then as he leaves with his rep, she returns to her car, and then it's her turn to break down. She can then release all the tension in her body and she can break down.
Yeah.
So, so Vic saved her life.
She did.
Did I skip over that too fast? Is there anything that you wanted to pull out?
No, I think it was, even though it was a lot and it went through the entire episode, I think you hit it all. And like I said, I think Barrett and Josh executed that scene beautifully. And it definitely left you feeling so many emotions. Even when Vic got in the car and just broke down, I couldn't imagine what she was feeling and what she was going through. So well done, and so many feelings to go with that scene.
Yeah. And I think, I said last week, didn't I, that Josh Randall, because of the way Beckett's been written, he's just been a douche. And Josh Randall has proved that he's excellent at playing a douche. But what he did in this episode was absolutely incredible. And we've seen we know Barrett Doss's quality. We've seen it time and time and time again. So I was not at all surprised by what I saw from her. She was just...
Yeah.
She was incredible. Barrett... But Josh Randall was a very pleasant surprise. Very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, seeing him being stretched and showing the different sides he can do, it made me excited that they took this route and kept him on, because I'm excited to see more of his storyline and what he's capable of as an actor. It was just amazing.
So, I mean, going back to the beginning of that with Theo and Vic.
Theo.
Jeez, that guy. When he said, let you, I was like, are you let her? And then I was so happy when she was like, oh, you let me? It's like, well done you. Thank you very much for saying that out loud.
Yeah, go on, Barrett.
And just the look on her face as well. Oh, you let me? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, bye.
And then the fact that he didn't ask any follow-up questions. This guy has been released early from his rehabilitation program. You're having to do a status report at the end of every shift on him. And Vic, who A, you should trust because she's your partner, and B, is doing the crisis one stuff, and C, is doing a psych course, has told you that he is acting strangely. So you've got these 3 red flags, and you don't think to ask any follow-up questions. Nice. And then the last thing I have to say about that is the fact that Vic feels the need to lie to him shows that he's failing as a captain and a boyfriend.
Yep.
If she can't go to him, A, as her boyfriend, or B, as her superior, and say, I'm really worried about this man. I really think that someone needs to go down there and check on him. And she has to lie to go down there. He's failing on every level, is he not?
No, he really is. And I was glad that Vic stood up for herself and didn't allow that. And no, I think he's totally got it to his head. And I'm not going to lie, I was so happy to not see Powell in this episode.
Yeah, but I think I saw a picture of her talking to Jack in the preview for next week. So.
I agree, but it was just nice. She was notably not there.
Yeah, she was conspicuous by her absence, thank God.
Yes, for sure.
Yes. Do you want to say anything else, or are we good to move on?
No, let's keep going.
Good. Okay, so the incident this week was a car wash. In my notes, I don't know where it is in your notes, but in my notes, all the captaincy stuff happens a little bit later on. But we saw in the preview that Theo, Andy, and Sullivan are all going for the captain's position.
Right.
And then in the lead ups and going to the incident, Theo and Andy have a discussion about the captain's race. And Andy does it from kind of a friendly perspective, and she wants to make sure that they're cool. And then Theo has to turn it on its head and make it into something it's not, and he kind of
make it so nasty, right?
That's the exact word that I've written down. Theo turns it nasty. That's the exact word that I've used, is nasty. And says to her, look, I'm not just going to hand it to you. I've cleaned up Beckett's mess, which is a job that you wouldn't take. And then good for Andy saying, whoa, I did my share of cleaning up when I was interim captain at 23.
Mm-hmm. She sure did.
Then his below the belt comment, oh, you didn't just clean it up, you wiped it out.
So rude. Rude.
Come on, mate. He is saved by the bell. They get the call out to the car wash, where they find an arguing couple stuck in a car, stuck in the car wash. Theo and Andy disagree on how to proceed, and they both revert to type. So Theo's very, very tentative, and Andy's a bit more gung-ho, because her concentration is on the preservation of civilian life rather than the team. And Sullivan is in there just pot stirring. All he does for the whole call is just stir the pot. But he does seem to be kind of supportive of Andy. He seems to be Andy's cheerleader, I think. But like, he suggests to her initially that she's being ruthless, and she says, well, no, I'm not being ruthless, I'm being honest, and that's a quality you could work on. And she kind of calls him out on his gameplay as well and says, look, I don't need tactics to become the captain. And again, we've seen this a few times with Sullivan, because this happened during the mutiny as well, where he deferred to Andy. And he does it again here, and he says to Andy, look, it's your call. When she's in dispute with Theo's saying we need to pull out, and she's saying, no, we need to extricate. Sullivan says, look, it's your call. So again, he's deferring to Andy, which is why I think that he's kind of setting Andy up for... He seems to be more interested in Andy being captain than himself. I don't know if that's how it felt to me.
No, I think he thinks he is not going to get it. So if he isn't, he's going to try to get to be captain who he wants to be captain.
We've seemed to have gone back to victims being idiots again. But I mean, the wife, I'll give her a break because she's got a massive head injury. And she does actually have a funny line, which is that she should have listened to her father when he didn't want her to marry her husband, because his father said that he smiled too much. So either he was selling something or he's not too bright. That cracked me up. But clearly he's not too bright, because he attempts to get out of the window of the car, despite Andy repeatedly telling him that he needs to stay inside. And of course, he manages to clamber out just as the backup generator kicks in, bringing a part of the machinery down onto his arm. Maya has to come in and help. She gets sucked into one of the spinners.
Tilt-a-whirl mile.
Yeah. Ends up with the electricity cable wrapped around her, binding her to the spinner. After all the stuff with Beckett, I needed that. That was so funny. Anyway, they get the idiot guy out of his car. Andy and Sullivan treat him in the back of the aid car, and Sullivan uses a conversation with him to talk to Andy about his lying. And he kind of apologizes. It's an apology in the Sullivan world, I think, and says we owe people common decency of not lying to their faces.
Yeah.
And then back at 19, Theo and Andy are taking pot shots at each other again. And Theo says that Andy and Vic should both be written up for not following orders.
Yep.
This dude, honestly. And then the chief has to come in and break up the fight.
I didn't like that scene.
No. Oh, well, I've got that in the chief's chunk. Do you want to talk about it now? Or do you want to talk about it in the chief's chunk?
Well, we can talk about it in the chief chunk. That's fine.
Okay. So in the lounge, Sullivan actually proffers an actual apology to Andy. So he was obviously having a real good day.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of laughing and joking, and he says how easy it is to be with her when they're good. And he confides in her that there aren't many good times with Ross and says that maybe they're wasting their time.
Yeah.
And Andy says that he's idealizing them and not to run from the love he has. But their chat is then interrupted by the breaking news that a win is predicted for Robot Osman.
Yep. Which is yay!
Yes. So last week with the incident that Danielle directed, the incident was kind of an integral part of the show. But I felt like this one was basically just a vehicle for Theo and Andy to butt heads.
Okay.
It didn't seem like it was much more than that. It was just an opportunity
Yeah.
to show how Andy and Theo are so opposed, I think.
Yeah.
What did you think?
No, I agree.
And if I'm going to be pedantic, let's face it, I'm going to be pedantic.
Okay.
It just seemed like a silly one again. Like, how did the car get stuck in there? I like to know these things. It just seemed very improbable. And how is that lady getting such a serious head injury when you're crawling at like half a mile an hour into a car wash? I don't know. I would have liked a little bit more explanation. It just takes me out of it a little bit when things are implausible. Like, I don't need things to be hyper realistic. It's not a documentary, it's a TV show. But I just like a little bit of plausibility.
Right.
I just thought that it was highlighting the difference between Theo and Andy's leadership styles. I mean, whose approach did you prefer, Theo's or Andy's?
Andy's for sure. I think Andy was right when she said that Theo is way overprotective because he lost someone. And I don't think he always thinks clearly. And obviously, Andy had to get in there because there was a brain bleed. So sometimes things have to happen.
Exactly.
You know?
And so you agree that she was correct to defy Theo then?
Yeah, I think sometimes things happen. Sometimes you have to make decisions that are not ideal, but, you know, it's based on the moment, and everything isn't protocol. Everything isn't by the book all the time. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, you and I are on the same page again, that she did absolutely the right thing, and that I think that lady would have been in some serious trouble had she not done what she did. So we can all stand back and wait for someone else to dive in, which is essentially what Theo was doing. We can all just hold on until it's safe. That's not what firefighters do.
I mean, that's the easy thing, but not everything is always easy, right?
Exactly.
So.
And then the only other thing that I wanted to ask you about was, do you think Sullivan was flirting with Andy a bit back in the lounge? It all seemed a little bit...
Yeah, with Andy?
Yeah.
For a minute there, I thought, is he trying to get back with Andy? When they were sitting on the couch.
Yeah, and when he said, you know, oh, things are so easy with us when we're good.
Yep.
And it didn't use the past tense. This reminds me of our good times. It was very much present tense. Things are so easy with us when we're good. And I thought, oh, hold on, fella.
I agree.
Oh, jaunty horses.
And then he's like, Natasha and I are not that free. And I thought for a minute, wait a minute now. What are you doing?
Yeah. It just seemed a little bit off to me.
I had the same thought.
I'm not the jealous type, but I would not be pleased if I heard my partner speak to an ex in those terms. So it seemed a little bit off to me.
I agree 100%. I remember feeling a little bit off about that scene.
But I liked how Andy was like, no, you're idealizing us and don't throw this away. So I think if that was where he was headed, I think she did well to stamp it out quick.
She kind of steered him back towards Ross a little bit.
Yes, exactly. So is there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Nope. I think we're doing good.
Good. Okay, so the last block that I've got in my notes was kind of I've called it the everyone and everything else block, because everyone's stories seemed not very cohesive. Everyone seemed to sort of be off in a corner doing their own thing. So I just thought if we just took 2 minutes to talk about each character. So essentially the chief has turned 19 into a polling station. We have a mini incident at the station, which is two teenagers racing on scooters to vote. They crash into each other. One's got a missing tooth and a dislocated knee. And the chief, Karina, and Ben step in to help while the weed mums go and look for the missing tooth. The chief resets the boy's knee. Karina tells them that she saw a guy lose a nipple on a scooter once, like in a scooter accident. I mean, of course she did. Have you ever, in your years of medical practice, ever seen anyone lose a nipple to anything?
I cannot say I have, no, but I liked that scene. It was short, but it was something that the episode needed, so I appreciated it.
I mean, look, this was all very amusing, and essentially it was just a way to wedge the issue in there that we're basically dependent on this generation to undo all the damage that the baby boomers and Gen Xers and Gen Y have done to the world through our very poor political choices.
Sure.
A little heavy-handed. Again, usually I get a bit grumpy about heavy-handed issues. But again, this is about voting. And, when you've got certain so-called businessmen from New York who may or may not be standing for elected office on your side of the pond, please vote.
Yeah.
There's a certain part of the political establishment over on your side of things that quite enjoy a bit of voter suppression, would quite enjoy it if large swathes of the population did not vote. And so please do exercise your right to vote. People died for it. People will die for it again, probably. Please vote.
Yep. Keep voting.
Also, really, really happy that they mentioned Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And you will never get on my bad side if you invoke Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So
yes, for sure.
So there we go.
For sure.
Yeah. All the other action kind of happens in and around the station, and they're all just sort of like these little mini character studies. So, I mean, Travis didn't have a great deal to do in this one. He looked very pretty in his blue suit.
He did.
He's off to a speaking event for Roble. He has a funny scene with Vic where they're doing vocal warm-up exercises.
Yeah.
And she tells him to go get his man when they're talking about Eli. So obviously that was a little bit of foreshadowing there. Eli keeps popping up at the station because he's doing voter drop-off, so he's in and out. Every time he pops up, he's angry with Travis. There's nothing substantive there. He's just mad at Travis. There's a nice little flashback to the bagel and cream cheese. Other than that, nothing really to speak of. But then after it's announced that Osman is projected to win, Eli seeks Travis out, still mad at him, but soon forgets all about how mad he is when they have a big snog. It's all quite passionate at the end. Did I miss anything?
I didn't really feel like it was that heartfelt. I felt like it was kind of forced.
Did you?
I remember thinking, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this kiss, so we'll have to see what plays out in that. I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Look, for a foppish middle-class Englishman, that was pretty full on.
That's what he had. Yeah. Okay, then let's see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're good with that.
Okay. Ben? Should we do Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ben is short and sweet. You know, he's still struggling with he got the invitation for the honorary ball. Still struggling with that, but I really enjoyed the conversation he had with Karina when he dropped the bin. And
I did.
I think between that and the conversation with Chief Ross and I think Reggie, I think his name was, coming in.
Yeah.
Just all of that, you know, because you and I last week had talked about how is he going to overcome this? How are they going to play it out? And I think that it was done very well. And I really enjoyed seeing that kind of wrap around and come to a closure almost.
Yeah, same. Again, same as you. I really loved the conversation that he had with Karina. I think he and Karina have got a really lovely relationship. And the way she sort of said to him, saving someone's life deserves a bit of acknowledgement. But she did it in such a lighthearted way. And then he got that really hearty slap.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a snap out of it, boof. So I liked that. And the Chiefs got a slightly different approach. How dare you not take the wins? I mean, I was feeling slightly fragile anyway, but it actually brought a tear to my eye when Reggie gave him that magnet. Yeah. I mean, people have seen it. I don't need to recap it too much, I don't think, do I? But Reggie basically turns up to introduce his wife to the man that saved his life, Mr. Spiderbite. And they took their trip to Italy, and he said although he can't ever repay Ben, he brought him back a fridge magnet as a token of his appreciation. So the Chief reiterates that he should celebrate the wins, and it looks like hopefully with a slap from Karina and a berating from the chief and a fridge magnet, maybe he will accept the wins. So yeah, that was that.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved the way they did that. It was small but subtle and powerful. So
Yes.
I loved it.
Good stuff. Okay.
For sure.
Talking of powerful, the chief.
The powerhouse herself.
The powerhouse herself. So an interviewer has turned up at the station and is talking to the chief about her turning it into a polling place and says that it doesn't seem like the work of someone who is resigning. And the chief says what we were all hoping she would say, which is that she has absolutely no plans to do so. She has bought new turnouts that are female cut, which Herrera is modelling. And she says that she was saving her discretionary fund for a rainy day and now it is pouring.
It's pouring, yep.
Dixon turns up with his wife Kitty to drop off Kitty's ballot. This was so funny. She's so good. The lady that plays Kitty, I should have paid attention to her name because she's so funny.
She is.
So she's filled out a joke ballot. She says she needs a replacement ballot because the ballot she's filled out is voting for the other guy.
Right.
But Dixon is not seeing the funny side. Then she accuses him of voter suppression. Then she misremembers Ben as someone that she went to high school with.
Which is like, come on.
It's just very, very funny.
Yeah.
What's also funny is the exchange that the chief then has with Dixon. He kind of says, well, you know, what the hell were you doing? I didn't even have to do anything. You went to the union yourself. And she says that's because she wasn't going to have a scumbag like him determine how she goes down. Loved it. And he says, well, you know, you're out of a job either way because you're radioactive is the word that he uses. But it turns out that she's dug up some dirt on him, which she says that she'd be happy to disseminate if and when she is a civilian again. And then I loved that she called him Dick because it harked back to Maya calling him Dick.
Yeah.
You know, and Maya said, can I call you Dick for short? And so the chief again here says to him, you know, watch your back, Dick. Yeah. I just enjoyed it. And he has that real...
Yeah, I loved her facial expressions too, the way she opened her eyes.
Yeah.
Loved that scene.
Again, I really like the two of them. I just think they're both really talented actors and I just like the way they play off each other. It's great.
They are.
So then the chief calls everyone into the beanery and says that she needs to name a permanent captain. Yeah. And Theo, Andy and Sullivan step forward to be considered in that order. And Maya just looks at the floor. I mean, she looks pained. She has a very pained expression on her face, but she looks at the floor. And I saw Andy look around like, are you okay? You're not? Well, I will. But Ben and Jack give Maya a really hard look as if to say, what the bloody hell?
Yeah, I mean, it looked hard for her, but it wasn't her priority. And for her to recognize that and be okay with that was just more of her growth, right?
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah. And then it's at that point that they all go on the call. And then when they come back from the call, Sullivan is jabbing at Theo saying, oh, you clearly feel threatened. And that's the fight that the chief has to come in and break up.
Right.
And she tells them that none of them are acting like captains. She thought she'd made a decision. Now she has to rethink it. And then she very pointedly says, I need to rethink everything, which I took to mean her relationship with Sullivan, frankly.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
So you had stuff to say. You said you didn't like the fight scene and how that played out. So what was it that you didn't like? What was it that bothered you?
No, I think Sullivan is being conceited, self-centered, and even now manipulative and sabotaging. And he needs to get his priorities straight. He needs to look at Ross for what it was. And I believe if he respects her the way he says he does, then he needs to love her and she shouldn't have to beg for his love. So, you know, we saw in the preview next week that she says, I love you. I just want you to love me. She shouldn't have to beg for that. So either he needs to step his game up or I'm over it. She needs to move on.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm the same. I was really upset by the way it played out when he stepped forward. The expressions on both of their faces. The chief, it's beyond disappointment. She's crestfallen that he's done that. And to me, he just looked smug. His face just said, yeah, that's right. I've stepped forward. What are you going to do?
Yeah. I agree.
And then his actions on the call, he didn't even seem like he was vying for captain on the call. He seemed like he was more invested in Andy getting the captaincy. So if that's the case, why has he done it? Is the cruelty the
Yeah,
point?
I think he seemed invested in getting in Andy's head to sabotage Theo, because then he knows how Ross looks at things and how Ross evaluate things and what she respects and doesn't respect. So I think he's using that to his advantage.
Yeah. It just,
For sure.
yeah, but it was just so cruel. And then when you look at it, when you look at his actions in juxtaposition with Maya's, Maya has done something completely selfless.
Yep.
She's put her wife first in this situation, and it's killing her, and you can see it's killing her, but she's done the right thing. And it seems like this is an intuitive decision. It doesn't seem like this is something that they've had a discussion about, because later on, we'll talk about it later on, but Karina appears shocked at the news when she finds out. So it doesn't seem like it's something that they've discussed, and Karina's kind of said to Maya, I really think that the best thing for us right now is for you to concentrate on us and for work to go on the back burner. Maya's just kind of intuitively thought, you know what, one day, but not right now. I'm going to hold back.
Right.
For her wife. Completely selfless for her wife.
For her wife, yep.
Sullivan, on the other hand, this is literally the most selfish thing that he could do in this moment, isn't it? And it is borderline cruel. I think it is borderline cruel. Natasha is going through one of the toughest things in her life right now. And all of it, both her personal problems with Sullivan and the professional problems, are all because of this, are because of her relationship with him and her preferential treatment of him, or at least her perceived preferential treatment of him, and the possibility that if she stays in the post and stays with him, there will be further preferential treatment. And they're arguing about that. So all of her problems comes down to this. So what he should be doing, in my personal opinion, is supporting her through this. He should be the supportive partner and be doing everything he can to try and ease her pain and make this easier for her. But he's doing the exact opposite. He's adding problems to her problems, personally and professionally. And him asking this of her, him stepping forward, is literally setting her up to fail. There is no right decision for her. In him doing this, he's set her up either to fail in their relationship or to fail professionally. Whichever decision she makes, she's screwed.
Which is why I was happy that Andy told him, you're not going to get it. She can't give it to you. Like, even Andy understood, right? Like, what he was asking of her was wrong. And so I've really appreciated Andy being the voice of reason for him.
Yeah.
Or at least trying.
But I just couldn't believe the cruelty of what he did. He's literally set her up to fail. Either she has to let the department down and look like a fool for promoting her boyfriend, or she has to try and save face and promote either Andy or Theo, in which case he can then throw it in her face, well, you're not supporting me. Now you've made me look like an idiot again, and you're halting my career. So
that's
he's
his
just,
fault, though.
Yeah, but it's just...
That's his fault.
It was just... I just thought it was just one of the cruelest things that he just did the exact opposite of the thing that he should be doing as a supportive partner. And I used to love them together, and now I think she deserves so much better. When's he going to learn, that your job is just the thing that pays your bills?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
And I've loved them since the beginning. I've been Team Ross Sullivan since the beginning, but now she deserves better, and she's so desperately in love with him, which makes it hard.
It makes it so much worse. And in the beginning, it seemed like she was bringing out the best in him, but not anymore.
Yeah. No, now he's just being a selfish jerk, and he needs to change.
Yeah, and I'd written down to ask you if you think that she is right to rethink everything, meaning Sullivan, and you've just answered the question for me. So yes, we're on the same page there too. So but I mean, do we think he's really ever going to change? I think this is just in his DNA.
I don't know, because he will for a while, but then he'll go back. So it's like he doesn't really change. He just is able to act a certain way for a certain amount of time, and then it gets too much and he goes back to the normal
Yeah,
behavior.
and he just reverts to form. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That'll be interesting. I hope some of it's addressed in the finale for sure.
Me too. Me too. Anything else you want to say about Chief Ross / Sullivan?
Nope.
Shall we move on to Jack?
Sure, yeah. Move on to Jack. Not much there, but some powerful stuff there.
Very much so. Marsha's come to see him at the station, and she can read him like a book. She knows that he's anxious, and it turns out that it's because Brooke has set up a meeting with another one of his siblings. And despite things going well with Brooke, he's nervous because he says he can't connect with her due to the vastly different upbringings that they've had. And he says that actually being around her just makes him miss his foster siblings even more. But Marsha's sweet and the voice of reason, and she says that he should give all his siblings a chance. And then after the call, he kind of then sort of relitigates it with Maya, and he confesses to her that he thinks he's going to bail because that's Jack's MO, isn't it? Things get hard, and so he just walks away because he doesn't want to deal with the pain. And then we get more wisdom bombs from Maya, and she just gives him the advice to let life do its thing, don't try and control it, and just be open to the possibility that he's going to meet somebody who will come to mean something to him someday.
Yeah, super good advice.
Really good advice. And I love how they kind of, there's a couple of times this has happened, that they're like really serious with each other, and then they just start goofing around. It's like a very sibling-y relationship, which is why it's so weird that they were doing it, because they do seem more like siblings. But they watch Theo and Andy and Sullivan arguing, and they say how nice it is to watch the drama and not be the drama. And then he takes Marsha and Maya's advice on board, and he meets Brooke at Joe's, and she has a surprise for him. And it's not, in fact, a bio sibling. It is his foster sibling.
Yes, that teared up on that scene. I'll be honest. It got me.
Me too. Yeah. Me too. Julia only started watching it from when Karina was in it. So I had to explain to her when I was explaining to her, I was literally like crying. Look, I was feeling somewhat fragile anyway, as you know. But I feel like such a mug, Tiffany, because I remember saying to you, like, oh, don't cry at TV.
Right.
You know, I'm just not the type, you know, I don't cry at television. It's all fiction. It's fine. Yeah. And I essentially sobbed my way through this episode. But yeah, when I explained to Julian, I was like, yeah, no, they got separated. But I was just a mess. But I loved their meeting. And I think that actually, although he didn't speak really, I thought that was some of the best acting I've seen Grey Damon do when he realised who it was and said to her, what are you doing here? And then hugged, like just held on to her for dear life. So I loved that. But I also loved how Brooke was such a nice surprise, because she surprised us as much as she surprised Jack.
She did.
There's Jack saying, yeah, but we don't really connect. You know, I don't feel like we're connecting. And here she is kind of saying to him, yeah, no, I get it. And I loved that when we've seen her before, she, especially after the motorcycle crash, she was painted as being quite selfish and quite entitled.
She was.
But then this is so unselfish.
Yeah.
Doing this because she's reached out to Jack because she wants a relationship with Jack. But in her interactions with him, she's seen that she's not who he needs.
Yeah, it's not the sister he's used to. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's gone to all the effort to seek out what Jack needs. Right. And to the detriment of herself, because all the while she's allowing Jack to grow his connection with his foster sibling, there's going to be less room in his life for her. Yeah. And so I just thought that was just really beautiful, really touching. And I was a big, wet, soggy mess. Quick cue. Do you guys learn ASL in school?
Some, but not much, no. You have to take it if you want to learn more. Okay, because I just find it odd that everyone in Jack's life seems to know ASL. Like, I understand why Jack knows ASL. I did too. It caught me off guard that she learned it, unless she learned it just for that. I mean, she would have learned it bloody quick. But I just remember when they rescued
Marcus and was her name Inara, Marcus's mum?
Yes.
You can see Maya in the background of one of the scenes using ASL to communicate with Marcus. Then they tip up at Marsha's place, and Marsha suddenly knows a little bit of pigeon ASL, to be fair, but she knows a little bit of ASL.
Yeah.
And now suddenly Brooke knows enough ASL to say, that's him. Do you know who this is? Which is not like, hi, please, can I have 2 beers? Or, you know, like...
Yeah, it's not common language.
It's not exactly. So, again, me being the pedant, but I just wondered if it's a culturally different thing and if you do learn a bit of ASL in school.
Not when I went in school, no.
I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing, right, for us to...
No.
I mean,
no,
I think I've probably
all.
had more opportunities to use sign language than I have to use French.
Right. No, I agree.
Anyway... That aside, I bloody loved that.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was gorgeous.
It was.
And it made my face wet. So anything else you want to say about Jack?
No, beautiful scene. It definitely teared me up, and I'm happy we finally got that, because that'll be a good storyline for him for a while.
Yeah, and Jack deserves a little bit of happiness, because as Marsha said, he's had a bit of a rough life. So that was just a really lovely surprise. I didn't see it coming.
It was. So I didn't either.
On many levels. No. Can we talk about my favourite fictitious person now?
Please.
If this is people's first time of listening, my favourite fictitious person is Karina DeLuca. So Ben asks Karina what's happening with she and Maya. He deftly changes the subject whilst she's trying to convince him to accept his Medal of Valor.
Yep.
So he's like, so anyway, what's happening with you guys? And she says that living with Maya was starting to feel like living with her father, and she's learned not to come second to chaos, and that she's going to need proof that Maya won't slip back when things don't go her way. Then Ben later bumps into Karina having a powwow with the chief, and he asks the chief to give Karina the proof that she needs, that Maya has evolved, and the chief confirms that Maya has declined a shot at Captain.
Mm-hmm.
And Karina refuses to believe it and says, no, there is nothing that Maya wants more. And Ben needs to literally spell it out for her. No.
There is.
There is something that she wants more.
Yeah.
Which leads Karina to wait for Maya in the locker room. And we see her either sliding her wedding ring back on or playing with it.
Right, one or the other.
Either way, the wedding ring is now present again. So Maya comes out of the shower and she tells Maya that she's going to come home with her. We get our first Bambina since episode 4. And she says to her, I'm coming home for better or worse, richer or poorer. Get some clothes on so I can take them off when we get home. And when they arrive back at the apartment, Maya sweeps Karina off her feet in literal terms and carries her over the threshold.
Loved that scene. And I loved the tiny glimpse of her ring when she put her hand on the door. Like, just letting us see that it's there.
Yes.
Yeah, loved it.
So the first thing that I really loved was when she said that it felt chaotic. I've learned not to come second to chaos. And Ben says, well, Maya looks pretty peaceful to me.
Right.
And I thought, peaceful, that's the word I was looking for. During the Lasagna Gate episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember we said that episode felt chaotic? And I said, the only time anything doesn't feel chaotic is when Maya's there. Like, everyone's lost control, but Maya seems to be in control and everything feels like it's been taken down a notch when she's on screen. Peaceful is the word that I was looking for.
Yeah.
And she does just seem very peaceful now.
She does.
And it used to be that every time Maya was on the screen, there was just this tension in her face and you could see her computing 86 things at once. And now she just seems very zen.
Yep. I agree. And it's great.
Yeah, and peaceful. Yeah. But that was the word that I was looking for. We also have the revelation that she is still seeing Diane. So, great news. And I could be wrong. This could be a Stacey Okinola line. But I'm going to go on a limb and say that Leah Gonzalez wrote the line, I'm not a reward. And first time round, I didn't pick it out particularly. And then when I watched the episode a second time, I was like, ooh. And I just really loved that when Karina said, I'm not a reward. So I wanted to pick that out. And I also wanted to pick out that she must have been carrying her ring around the whole time.
Right, like have just had it in her pocket or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrying it in her wallet. Do you call it a wallet?
A wallet, yeah.
I mean, I have a wallet because I'm a big butchy thing, so I carry
Yeah.
a men's wallet. But you call but the thing that a person carries their money in, you call a wallet, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a man or a woman's item.
A wallet, yeah. Or my mom calls it a pocketbook.
Pocketbook, okay.
Yeah.
So whether she had it in her wallet or in her purse, which we call a handbag, and but she's had it on her person this whole time basically, because she didn't have to go anywhere to pick it up.
No, she had it.
I loved that. And I don't know about you, but I saw this whole thing as basically them renewing their vows.
Yeah, reconnecting for sure. Karina said a couple of the vows, richer for poor, sickness and in health. So
yeah, well, because if you think back to 414, when Maya gave potentially the worst proposal in the world, and Karina did not take kindly to it, what Karina said to Maya was, "I married you the day I moved into this apartment."
Correct.
And so the fact that she's now saying, "I'm moving back in," is kind of like she's marrying her all over again.
Right.
And they didn't actually say any vows at their actual wedding.
No.
It was, "Do you, I do, me too."
Yeah.
So the fact that now there are actual vows, that's a step forward from the actual wedding.
So we kind of got the vow renewal we were waiting for.
The ring has gone back on the finger.
Yes.
And then
yes.
Maya's carrying Karina over the threshold. So essentially, it felt like a refresh. It felt like a redo, like a restart, a reset.
For sure.
She's moving back in. The ring's on her finger. We had a little bit of the wedding vows, and then we had a carrying over the threshold. And if you had told me that I would love that scene of Maya carrying Karina over the threshold, I would have told you were mad.
Yeah.
Because I am so anti anything remotely patriarchal, and I get so annoyed with anything heteronormative. And if you'd have said that, I'd have been like, okay, this is very Richard Gere, an officer and a gentleman. And I reject this in its entirety. However, oh my God, it was the best. I loved it.
It was the best. I loved it. I've rewinded it so many times.
Julia was very impressed. Julia was like, there was zero effort.
No.
Just
have you seen Danielle's arms?
Well, it's yes, for a start, but also it's not really the arms so much. So her core and her back and her glutes are going to be doing 90% of that work.
Okay, that's fair.
So, but the girl's in very good shape.
Yeah.
But no, it was just absolutely gorgeous. And I think it's going to end up being iconic, to be honest, because I have consumed so much queer media through my life. Essentially, if there's any same-sex female relationships on screen, I'm going to watch it. And maybe it's been done before, but I really don't think it has. And so I think that it's going to become kind of iconic. It should become iconic.
Okay. But sure.
Yes, I loved it.
Good.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say about it?
No, it was a great episode. I think the most great growth in this episode was definitely, I think it was a tie between Maya, Karina, and Ross, honestly, if I had to pick that. But tons of growth and tons of stuff that we've been waiting for, right? So.
Yeah. One thing that I was going to ask you, actually, is I saw some chatter, and I don't even know if it matters that much, but I saw some chatter that people, not on Twitter, I've still been avoiding Twitter because I'm a good girl, but on like a couple of Facebook groups, people were a bit miffed about how the ring went back on Karina's finger. Do you have a view on that?
I think...
Were you expecting more?
I think people were expecting like Maya to get down on one knee or just not even one knee, but just be the one to put it on her finger.
Yeah.
I thought it was subtly and beautifully done. It would have been nice to see it a little bit more because we saw it from kind of a back angle and her just kind of
Yeah.
playing with it. I think it would have been
Yeah.
nice to see a front angle of her grabbing it and putting it on. But I don't have a problem with the overall way that it was done, no.
No, me neither. In fact, I think actually it was probably more important that Karina did it herself.
Right, because it was her feeling safe and
Yeah.
comfortable and no, so
Yeah.
in the end I don't have a problem with it. And they made sure we saw it on the door, and I'm sure they're going to show scenes with it again. Maybe Maya might see it and say something. So I'm not giving hope
Oh,
about
she's seen it.
future.
She's
She had to
seen
have seen
it.
it. So I'm happy with it. At least it's back. We got it back. We don't have to worry about it
Yeah.
anymore. So
Yeah. No, I thought it was actually a really interesting and healthy choice that because it's like a physical manifestation of
right.
Karina's choice.
Yeah.
And I think that if they'd had Maya do it, there would have been some bargaining involved and there would have been some exchange involved. Even if it's
Correct.
even if it's a mutual exchange, Maya saying, I want to do it, or Karina saying, here, you do it. There still has to be that exchange. And I thought it was actually kind of better that it was Karina coming to that choice on her own and doing it on her own.
Right.
And that Maya wasn't in any way involved in the decision or in the physical act of putting it back on her finger.
Right.
So I actually I really liked it.
Yeah, I did too, for sure.
So themes. Did you see any overarching themes in this one?
Not really, no. Just because every character had something. It was chaotic, but they did a very good job keeping it organized, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what theme you saw in it.
Well, what jumped into my head was that quote that I'm probably going to butcher, but it goes something along the lines of, to be loved is good, but to be understood is profound.
Okay. So yeah, being understood.
Yeah, and I thought that we saw that on a few occasions. So we saw it with Jack and his sister very pointedly, that she loves him, but more importantly, she understands him and she saw him and saw what he needed and provided that by giving him his foster sibling back.
Sure.
Beckett doesn't have love. He doesn't have, he said that his friends are dead.
Yeah.
He's got 2 ex-wives, but he was understood. He was seen by Vic.
Yep.
And that had a profound effect on his life in as much as he still has one.
Sure.
So he was understood by Vic. There was never any doubt, even from, and Karina could never doubt that Maya loved her.
Right.
But now she feels understood. And that's what's led her to putting this ring back on her finger. Maya's understood what Karina needs and has given it to her. And then conversely, we can see how profound it can be when someone completely fails to understand you. What a profound effect that has on you. Look at Theo. He fails to see and understand anything at the minute.
Right.
Particularly Vic. And Sullivan, he might say that he loves Natasha, but he doesn't understand her. He fails to see what she needs.
Sure.
So that was what I saw as the thread that connected it all together.
Yeah.
And you think that either Maya and Karina or Ross had the most growth?
I do. For several different scenarios, but yes, I do.
Yeah. Well, I agreed with you to a point. So in my notes, I said that Maya had the most growth in turning down the captaincy and that it was kind of proof of growth throughout the season. So if you look at this time last year, she was prepared to blow up her life entirely just to be captain.
Right.
She broke the law. She was potentially going to destroy her career, her reputation, her marriage, all of it for the captaincy. And now all she needed to do was take a step forward, and she didn't.
Yeah, and she didn't.
So I think that when you look at this time last year and now today, Maya's had the biggest arc of growth.
She has, for sure.
But then I think, really, I had to say, undeniably, it was Beckett, who
Yeah, for sure.
started the day wanting to end his life and then ended the day going to do the work to try and make himself
Working
better.
with Hughes. Yep. Perfect.
So I said him. Best scene?
Gosh, this is hard. There were so many good scenes.
Don't limit yourself, Tiffany.
I can't.
Just,
there were so many good scenes.
You just...
Between the, Maya not stepping up for captaincy, to Andy taking over at the car wash, to Jack meeting his foster sister, to Karina carrying over the threshold. I mean, how can you pick one scene? This was a beautifully done episode.
And why should you?
Exactly. Why should I be limited? So beautiful episode. Were you able to pick one?
Yes and no. So I think for the warm and fuzzies and the fact that I've been waiting for 2 decades plus for representation, Maya and Karina reconnecting, and the vows,
for sure,
which I can't remember now because Julia won't marry me. She's asked the question and refuses to follow through.
Tell her to take notes. Take notes.
Look, it's only been 14 years. We don't want to rush things. But just for the warm and fuzzies, it was that sort of on a personal note. But I think for the best scene, rather than just my personal feelings, I think that it has to go to Beckett and Vic when he yells at her for ruining his plans and breaks down against the car.
That was a very powerful scene. Yeah.
Did you have a favourite line/lines or piece of dialogue?
I think all the dialogue between Vic and Beckett deserves so much praise. And I liked the dialogue with Karina and Maya at her locker. And I liked the dialogue between Ross and Dixon when she was like, if I'm a civilian, I got you. Like, I'm going to tear you down.
I didn't think about that.
So
I didn't think about that.
Quite a bit.
No, that was good. Well, I hadn't actually put it in my notes, but now that I've talked it through with you, it cemented it even more in my head that I loved I'm Not a Reward.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm going to hold on to that and I'm going to internally take heed.
You should.
Because how often do we think that we owe someone something of ourselves, even if it's going to be to our detriment, if it means losing something of ourselves, we don't prioritize that and we don't recognize the personal cost to us. We just put the other person first and think, oh, well, they deserve it. I owe it to them. And so I just kind of loved that Ben was like, oh, well, she's working really hard and she's, and her saying, yeah, but I'm not a reward.
Right.
I'm not a freaking gold star.
Right.
I'm not some, oh, look, she's checked these things off her list. Gold star, a little sticker to say, well done you. I'm not that.
Sure.
I'm not her reward. And so the more I think about it, the more I love that. So Stacey or Leah, whoever wrote that line, thank you.
Beautifully done.
And I'm taking that into my everyday life.
Yeah, for sure.
What I had got written down was the exchange between, I'd basically rehashed my favourite scene and said that my favourite dialogue was the exchange between Beckett and Vic when he said that he felt better and he had a plan, and she says, well, tough and I ain't going anywhere. Yeah. So that very much too, but sometimes it's the simplest things, right? So I'm not a reward. I'm sticking with it.
Yep.
Most gifable moment? I think we're going to say the same one.
You do?
I do. Go on.
I don't know. I had one, but then when you asked me, I pictured Travis and Vic going.
Okay, so initially that was my one. As soon as I saw it, I was like, well, there's a classic gif.
Yeah. And which one did you change it to?
The Princess Carrie.
Yep, for sure. So between those two, for sure. Yep, you got it.
See, sometimes we just know each other's brains.
We do. We know each other very well.
So what are you looking forward to next week?
I'd like to see a pregnancy test being taken.
Ugh.
I'd like to see Ross and Sullivan talk, and I'd like to see a new captain, and I'd like to see Theo either apologize to Vic or Vic kick him to the curb.
Option B. for me.
Yeah, so there's a lot I want to see. It's only 45 minutes, so I know we're not going to see all I want to see, but I have hopes. So
I am not going to get my resolution, am I, to the fires in Theo's neighborhood.
no, we're going to have to do a drop storyline on those over the hiatus for sure.
I mean, it might carry through. It might be the carryover into next season.
It might.
Because they carried Maya's blackmail as like a theme through. So maybe they'll carry that on through. But I've been saying literally since we started that I'll be pleased to see what's behind that and what's been going on there. And I just don't think I'm going to see a resolution to that because it seems like the incident is going to be at the firefighters' ball. But similarly to you, I've got written down, I'm excited to see who the new captain is. And I want to see what happens between Sullivan and Ross.
Yeah.
So next week's episode is called Glamorous Life. And the synopsis or the log line says the Station 19 crew trade their turnouts for tuxes and gowns as they attend the firefighters' ball. But when disaster strikes, they jump into action to save the day. And it's written by Zoanne Clack and directed by Stacey Clay Black.
Okay.
Zoanne Clack, this is her first writing credit for Station 19, but she's got 22 writing credits for Grey's Anatomy going all the way back to season 2.
Oh, okay. So she's got, perfect.
So we can expect a banger from her. And obviously we know that she's taking over as co-showrunner with Peter Page.
Yeah, so it's got to be good stuff coming.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see what decisions she makes and what she does. And Stacey K. Black always gives us some really exceptional moments. So I'm excited for that one.
Me too.
I didn't see Maya or Karina in any of the behind-the-scenes photographs.
I didn't either,
so
but
what do we think?
They've been keeping it under lock and key, and so far it's been good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm hoping that they're not there, that they've made alternative arrangements.
Yeah, and we get to see them doing something like a staycation or something fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and so they're just basically out of harm's way.
Yeah,
I'm
for sure.
quite happy for them to just sitting on the sofa, watching a couple of rom-coms, doing whatever newlyweds do.
Exactly.
But we shall see what next week has in store. All right. Well, I wasn't looking forward to this because I thought I was going to end up in floods of tears and making a bit of a prat of myself. But I managed to keep the tears in for the most part.
You did.
And I actually ended up having fun.
Good.
And that is 100% down to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm glad. I'm always here for you all the time. Just a message away or a call away. And I'm glad that we were able to keep it as lighthearted as possible. But before we go, if you did get triggered in the U.S., please call 988 or text 988 for 24/7 mental health care, okay?
I don't recall offhand what the number is for the Samaritans, but a quick
Google,
search in your preferred search engine will pull up a 24/7 free phone number for the Samaritans.
Perfect. Great. And we will be back next week. And as always,
we will.
Thank you, every single listener, for every single listen. We appreciate you so much.
We do. We love you so much. Thank you for all your support. Yeah. And see everybody next week.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye, mate.